Hello grade 4 students. I am Miss Dua. I'll guide you in the science curriculum lessons during this year. This year will be very unique and we will study a new curriculum that offers print books where you will write, draw and illustrate in. Moreover, a digital edition where you can catch videos and play with interactives. The digital edition of the book will be available on the Egyptian Knowledge Bank's website. As you can see, you can log in through any mobile or computer. It holds all the activities found in our print book, in addition to the digital activities. We can reach the digital edition of the book by logging in the Egyptian Knowledge Bank, or we can scan the QR codes in the lessons or in the activities so that we can reach it directly. The science curriculum in the first semester consists of 2 units. Each unit contains 4 concepts, and at the end of each unit, we will have the unit project in which we will apply all what we have learned while studying the 4 concepts. And each concept we learn through a sequence of wonder, learn, and share lessons. In each concept, you will always find lessons that make you self-learner. For example, you will read a text and analyze it, examine an image and observe the characteristics of the object in it, or collect evidence by watching a video. And also, you will do hands-on research in order to test, observe, and analyze the results. Did you pay attention to how many skills you will practice in order to learn the science? We will observe, analyze, collect evidence, apply, and evaluate what we have learned. These are scientists' skills. They'll always use them to explain natural phenomena and also make discoveries that serve humanity. Now, we learned about the components of our curriculum and the way we will practice and learn science. We are ready to start Unit 1, Living Systems, which describes adaptations, senses, and communication among living things. At the start of our lessons, we will need you to be ready with your school book, papers, and a pen, because you will think, ask, and record your observations, questions, and answer in them, just like a scientist. At the beginning of each unit, before we start our lessons, we will have a group of interesting activities named START, through which we will remember concepts together that we have learned in previous years. We will learn about the anchor phenomena that the unit revolves around, which always exists in our real world. We will explore the unit project through which we will be able to evaluate ourselves and the extent of our understanding at the end of each unit. Are you ready? Let's go! We will start with the first activity, What I Already Know, in which we will share our previous knowledge about types of adaptation that living things use to survive. By observing 3 photos of living things that we learned about before, and then recording our observations in our books. We studied the adaptation of living things in previous years. In Discover book, we learned that the adaptation is that living things like animals and plants have characteristics in their body that help them survive in their environments in which they live. These characteristics differ in different environments and their conditions, such as deserts or forests. Now, open your book on page 1 to observe the 3 living organisms images. The animal in the first image is a fennec fox. The second is camel. And the third one is palm trees. We want you to look at them carefully and think. We will write down our answers under the following question, which states, what are some ways these living organisms have adapted to environmental conditions? Why did the animal or the plant adapt to change? Take your time. Did you notice the conditions of the environment in the three images? The desert. Do you remember what temperature and the weather were in the desert? The temperature is too high during the day, which means that the weather is hot. And it gets low at night, which means that the weather is cold. How do you think the fennec fox and the camel survive in each weather? If you look closely at each one of them, you will notice that the fennec fox is distinguished by its thick and long fur that helps it keep warm from the extreme cold at night and protect it from the sunlight and the hot sand during the day. Furthermore, it can hide in burrows to protect itself from dangerous animals. As for the camel, its body is covered with hide, which protects it from extreme heat. It also has a hump. Can you notice the hump? Which helps it store fat for a long time in order to get energy in case it doesn't find food or water. Along with its wide feet. The wide feet makes it able to walk on soft sand with such great weight without getting its legs stuck in. Well, as for the palm trees, does anyone remember how the structure of the palm tree helps it adapt to the environment where it grows? Did you notice its fronds? And how about its trunk? Is it long or short? The palm tree has a very long trunk, which helps it absorb air and sunlight, and at the same time stores the nutrients it needs in drought periods or to normally grow. Also, its fronds look like feathers to allow wind and rain pass between them easily without being cut off. Wow! Well, why do you think living things change their behavior and ways of adaptation as time goes by? Exactly. Environmental conditions. Any change in a specific environment will impact all living organisms that live in. For example, if there is an area with plenty of water and the water level starts to drop, what will happen? Absolutely right. Animals will start moving to another area where they will find more water. Adaptation helps all living things survive and find food, air, water, and shelter. Now that we observed the three images and talked about some ways they used to adapt, you can go back to the answers that you wrote and add a new information we discussed. These were about animals and plants. Let's take a moment to think about how could humans adapt to their environment. For example, in cold polar regions, what do people wear to get warm? And in what shapes do they need to build their houses to survive ice and heavy rains? What if it was the other way around? A very hot region. Do you think people who live there wear the same clothes and build the same houses? Or do they adapt in other ways? Now, it's your turn. Use a paper and a pen to record your observation. Also, I encourage you to share your thoughts with a partner or with any member of your family after you finish the lesson. There are still many adaptation types and behaviors that living things use that we will learn about in Unit 1. We will explore together a specific type of adaptation related to the sense of hearing and vision. Some animals that we call nocturnal animals use. Nocturnal animals are the animals that are active during night, such as some types of cats, and like other nocturnal animals, which uses a unique communication and navigation system, which represents our anchor phenomena. The animal is the bat. Anchor phenomena in Unit 1 is bats and how do they communicate with each other and navigate during the night. You may think that bats are frightening animals, but in fact, they are very important for humans and for the rest of living things. Throughout the unit, we will learn about the role of bats in preserving the ecosystem and how they help scientists develop a technology that we use today. Now, we will watch a studying bats video. We need you to record any information you observe or questions you may have about the nature of bats.
Bats are the only mammals that can fly. They are found in almost every habitat on Earth, except for extreme climates like the Arctic and Antarctica. Most bats live in colonies. The place where bats live together is called a roost. Because they have bad eyesight, bats have a special adaptation called echolocation. Bats make sounds and then listen for the echo to bounce back to them. This allows them to hunt for insects and avoid predators. What can we learn about bats if we put a small camera in their nest and observe their world? Bat roosts can be found in caves, trees, and in man-made structures.
Is it just me, or has anyone else been surprised to know that bats could be found in many different types of environments and can live in colonies like the colonies of the ants that we will learn about in mathematics? They could be found in trees and caves, and they can also live in anything that is man-made like ceilings. As for me, what made me wonder is, despite poor eyesight and inability to see, bats are nocturnal animals. What sense do they use to be able to determine the location of the prey they are going to hunt? We will learn more about this sense and the echolocation phenomena in the next lessons. Let's observe the image of bats on page 2 together. Look at the image carefully. This picture is not flipped. This is its normal position. You definitely have the same notice as mine, that bats are standing upside down. In fact, they are not standing, they are sleeping. The nature of bats makes them sleep upside down in order to be always ready to fly. Bats are the only mammals that can fly like birds, just like we watched in the video. We need you to start reading the text at the bottom of the page. The text provides us with information about the nature of bats. Are you ready to read? Let's go! One of the most important sentences that I read and highlighted is that bats are nocturnal animals which are active at night. Even though they cannot see well, they depend on an adaptation called echolocation. And one of the most interesting pieces of information for me, and I want to do more research about, is that bats feed on mosquitoes and insects. And they cannot only fly like birds because they have wings, but they also share with bees and butterflies in helping flowers and plants. One of the characteristics of scientists that we will acquire together is that they ask many questions about what they want to learn, especially if they learn something new for the first time. These questions always lead to great research and discoveries. As long as we study together, we will learn to ask questions and record them and search for reasonable scientific explanations exactly like scientists. In our unit, Living Systems, we need to find scientific explanations for during our study of the 4 concepts such as how do animals' different behaviors and physical characteristics help them adapt to survive. The first concept is called adaptation and survival. It will help us answer this question. Since we are talking about physical characteristics, it's important for us to know how the senses of animals help to survive and grow. That's what we will learn in the next concept. Senses at work. As for nocturnal animals, how do you think these nocturnal animals see at night? The third concept, light and sight, will provide us with information about the importance of light in the sense of sight in humans and animals. Nocturnal animals, super senses, and echolocation. Any of you might wonder, how do these nocturnal animals communicate with each other? This is the question that the fourth concept, communication and information transfer, will answer. This concept will help us to explore amazing ways of communication that some animals use. By the end of our study, the fourth concept, we will have explored the anchor phenomena. And we will be ready to solve problems like scientists and carry out Unit 1 project. Our unit project will be about bat chat. We are required to investigate how bats' structural and behavioral adaptations help them communicate with each other and transfer information. After our investigation, we will design a simple model or chart to show how bats rely on sounds to hunt their prey or escape from their enemies. This is the challenge or the problem that we will solve. I want to remind you that the first step in solving problems like scientists is to ask, and we will practice asking now. Let's open the book on page 3 and then write any questions you may have during watching the video and reading the text, which may have the answers that help us in our fact-finding journey. One of you might ask about echolocation phenomena, while the other might be interested in asking about the basic senses that nocturnal animals depend on. One of the questions my students wrote was, what senses helps bats fly in the dark and determine their prey's location? How do bats avoid danger? Do bats communicate with the group members? Now our episode comes to its end. Today we talked about the contents of the science curriculum for Primary 4, and we reviewed knowledge that we have studied in the previous years regarding adaptation. We observed 3 pictures for different living things and wrote all of our observations about their characteristics for adaptation. We explored the anchor phenomena of Unit 1, which we will focus on communication among bats. We watched a video and read a text about the nature of bats. We asked questions to prepare for the unit project. In the next episode, we will start our first lesson from Unit 1, Adaptation and Survival. Now, it's your turn to prepare. Think about how different animals can adapt to harsh environmental conditions. Does each living thing have one mechanism of adaptation or more? Remember to review Unit 1 Introduction. You can read the text and watch the video again on the textbook and think about questions until we meet again in the next lesson. Thank you.